Hello, and welcome to Salespeople Say Smart Stuff. I'll be your host, Nikki Ivey. Just kidding. This is the Radically Human Prospecting Sequence. I am still Nikki Ivey. I'm a sales culture subject matter expert. I have held every role in revenue, just about from SDR on up to CRO. So I know a few things, so I've seen a few things, and I'm excited to show you what all of those things look like in application, right? Because that's really what it is. I've been observing how, what it all comes down to, what messages are resonating with people across those revenue functions. And at the end of the day, it's humanity, it's people, it's empathy, it's relatability. And that is why we are going to look at the radically human prospecting sequence. We're going to talk about what that means, why it's important to take a human or radically human, distinctly human approach to your outreach. And then, of course, I'll share some examples of what that looks like in my outreach. We got a lot to get through in a very short amount of time. So without further ado, I am going to go ahead and get into it. All right, so again, what we're looking at here is the radically human outbound sequence, how to turn relationships into revenue, alternative title, how to stop chasing leads and start attracting leaders. Yeah, man. So as I promised, what is a radically human approach to selling, right? In essence, it's three things, right? It is buyer-centric, it is direct, and it is sincere. Right? I know that these are things that we'd all like to think that we, put into our selling every day, and we probably do a pretty good job. But right now, if you're watching here, and we'll get into this in the why section, but we got to up the ante, right? But a little bit about what buyer-centric means, right? Super simple. So a lot of the time when we prospect, we're focused on the conversation that we want to have. That's going to be increasingly less effective than focusing on the conversation that our prospects and buyers are already having with their peers, right? And within their organizations, right? The other two, direct, sincere, they're pretty self-explanatory. But these are things that we want to be intentional about. We want to be relatable, right? In a way that's not buzzy, the way that we've been talking about for the past couple of years. Why is this important? It's important because, if you're watching what's happening, you're watching the trends. I mean, you probably were watching a session at this summit about AI, right? And what it's doing and all the good and the bad and the ugly. But the thing is this, we don't need to necessarily compete with it. We do need to learn how to differentiate, but we don't do that for ourselves, right? It's how we frame these things. A lot of the time is, well, we got to differentiate from AI because it's going to take our jobs, right? Or, that's just, they're going to stop hiring salespeople. But the thing is, the incentive to differentiate is so that our buyers can have conversations with people who are genuine, who are relatable. That is buyer enablement. That is buyer-centric. Leaving it up to, right, chance or automation or just these sort of rote, right, pitches and ways that we talk to people, it's just not going to cut it. In a very practical way, you all might have seen studies published that buyers trust salespeople less and less. And so in order to really cut through that imperative to be relatable and to be human is even more increased. And then on an even more practical level, fewer open rates, fewer reply rates means fewer opportunities to really get into conversations and build a relationship. So that's why we've got to make sure that we're putting our best foot forward. And I believe that means taking a radically human approach. I do that with this framework, right? It's a 4-factor framework. And basically it's multi-thread. And that's important when it comes to being buyer-centric and being radically human, because one of the things or mistakes I've seen sellers make, I've made it myself, is to, yes, we're multi-threading, but the message isn't different enough between the individual personas in order to really make it clear, right, that this is a genuine individual, conversation and relationship that we're trying to have, right? So best case scenario I've seen, the first line of the email is personalized, but then the rest of it is pretty much the same, right? The same value prop, independent of how this individual actually engages with the problem. And so that's what pain here means, right? That's what you see there. So this is intended to do that, right? To really narrow it down and really focus in. We're going to do this, as it says here, with at least 3 personas, at least 3 contacts within the account. Here's what this framework looks like in action. So in this example account, I am selling an email coaching tool that also has the equivalent of conversational intelligence, but for email. So it offers these analytics. And you'll notice the contact that I selected here as the primary, she's not the economic buyer necessarily, certainly not the highest ranking person in the buying team, right? She's not an IC that's going to be directly engaging with it. She's someone who, and I wanted to make sure that I show you all this, but she's someone who's dealing with the issue in a very different way. So the trigger event here is a reduction in force. That's the assignment here, is to figure out how that one core problem, right, or source of the problem, how that is impacting people differently from one another across the revenue team. And then we're going to key in on those use cases and tie them to each other, right? So that's what you're looking at here, right? She runs strategic accounts. That means that when there is, a reduction in force, people inevitably are going to focus more on retention and expansion. So she's under a microscope right now, and anything to get a competitive edge, or at the very least not to lose deals, right, is going to be necessary. And so it's likely to resonate. And the reason why, again, why we're doing this and why we have to be this specific is because that empathy has to be real. Remember, this approach is about tone and sincerity, right? Here's another example of another persona at that same account. But you'll notice here, the pain is different, right? The use case is different. It is specific to that frontline manager, who again has a whole other set of issues that a reduction in force is going to cause. I'm going to pause here and just again reiterate what we want to do is foster those conversations about this source problem, right? This main problem within that organization between people who do engage with the problem in different ways, right? To really start to, before we even have a discovery conversation, to really start to drill in, right? Or drive home this idea that, again, I am reaching out to you as an individual with empathy for how you deal. These are the steps to the sequence. I felt like it needed a slide. It's not the cutest slide, and maybe you don't even have time to write it all down. Fear not. I'm sure that you'll be able to receive the slides after this, but I just thought it was important to list out the steps. It's a 20-day sequence. It is also, in addition to being multi-thread, it is multi-channel. So you'll see there's email, LinkedIn, phone calls. I even mentioned texts in here if you're feeling like going for it. But anyway, I want to call out some of the specific pieces, right, that are radically human. Because again, what we're not talking about is, here is the most radically human cold call opener, right? Or here is the most radically human piece of email copy. We're talking about how the entire sequence, right, follows a through line, right? Tells a story of how and why we are trying to get in contact with these folks in a way that is rooted in trying to start a conversation. And so each step is, geared at that. I'll point out real quick my favorite couple of steps. I love the LinkedIn DM, right? One of the reasons why I like it in this particular sequence, right, as far as being radically human, is because it doesn't ask for anything, and it comes after you've commented on their post, right? Raise your hand. How many times has someone commented on your post and then met you in the DM to tell you more about what they liked about it? I've done that. I've received those. That's what this is, right? So interacting the way people would interact. It's not automated. So it's, again, very clear. So if I've commented, she posted, for this example, She had posted about an event that her company was holding for their potential buyers. It was at this really cool restaurant. And so I commented about it, right? This is above and beyond. It's like a nationally recognized restaurant or something, right? Just that. And then in the inbox to expound on it. And my other favorite is the making a LinkedIn post and tagging the company, right? So the post is going to be about in this case, they put out a state of customer engagement report. And so the post is going to talk about a few insights that I pulled from that. I'm going to tag the company about those insights, which are likely to be relevant to their audience and mine. And I'm going to tag the individual contact and give them a shout out for spearheading, right? Whatever this initiative or this philosophy is that they're advancing, right? At that company, right? And so since this particular contact is the person that is responsible for customer engagement, it would make sense to shout her out. Here is an example of what that first call is. It's radically human because it starts with personalization. I know that what we talk about a lot of the time is starting with a permission-based opener or an attention-grabbing opener. Those are important, they're cool, and they work. But with respect to a radically human approach, what we really want to do, again, is come in unmistakable. So she answers the phone. Hi, this is Nikki Ivey. Is this Dahlia? Dahlia, I got to tell you, what you said the other day about XYZ, really made me think, and I thought I had to speak to this person. So that's why I reached out. But you actually are on my radar because, again, this is about tone. That's how we tell human beings, right? One from the other and one from not human beings. And so what's written here, cool, this is my script. But what I really want you to catch, right, are the little pieces of this that make it distinctly human. So again, in this example, I'm telling her, oh my gosh, that's so cool. You took your folks to this restaurant, saw that, and it was like, blew me away. And then I do get into a pitch later down here, but it is littered with questions about what this person is actually experiencing. Here again are some of those plays that I talked about. You've got the email copy up top. It isn't very different from the phone script, which I think is important to think about because when I'm writing emails, right, I'm writing them the way that I would speak. And so there really shouldn't be this huge difference between how we talk to them on the phone and then beep, boop, bop, boop, beep, this is an email type thing that a lot of the time people are tempted to do when it comes to outbound messaging. So I want to go back really quickly. We've got a little bit more time, and I want to double tap on this email copy, right? So I'm talking about, again, what they've done that impressed me and that got me interested, and that I am going into this pitch, right? And this is a part that I think a lot of you probably have heard or are already doing, but just in case. What we want to do is ask for interest because this is infinitely more, right? Is that something you're focused on right now? Or is that something that you're experiencing? How does that align with what you're seeing right now, right? These are questions about them and not us. These are questions that, sure, we know that we have a goal of having a conversation with them, but having a goal of having a conversation with someone is vastly different from having an agenda that you'd like to push on someone, right? And so that's one of the things I want to make sure that we drive home. Again, this LinkedIn DM piece, I enter it with the same tone because this isn't intended to be a voice note, not at this point, right? It's just how the message is written. And I'm again going to say, first, I have to tell you what you wrote was blah, 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 right? And then there's no ask in this. So if we're really talking about why this is called a radically human sequence, that's one of the elements I really do want you to take with you, right? Not that I don't want you to take all of them with you, but that in particular. And then here I do want to make sure that I highlight as well this idea of, getting creative with video. A lot of us hear that, and what it actually sounds like is, right? Like I should come in here wearing like a crazy outfit, singing songs and writing poems and stuff. and being assuming somebody else's personality, right? But really, these can be really practical. So if I've identified this woman's particular use case and I understand how my solution addresses it specifically, now I can go in and just make a quick screen recording video demonstrating just that piece, right? Just that piece. So, and you can, in that next message, that's what you'll say, right? You'll call it out. You'll say, hey, was thinking about what, blah, 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 this idea of customer engagement and retention, and wanted to show you this. So you do that. There is no ask, again, because the point of this, understanding them, listening to them, right? Not trying to fit this into our own agenda. So what I hope that you really understand about this, again, is that it's not necessarily about the copy. It's not necessarily about the script. It really isn't even about the order in which you do these steps, but it is about making it a codified part of your process and rethinking what a sequence can be. A sequence does not have to be automated. A sequence does not have to be based on specific frameworks and templates. A sequence can just be little reminders to be human, little opportunities to start a conversation in a different way, right? Again, these steps, they assume that the person did not respond to the previous step. And so you're not going to be repeating yourself. You're just going to be trying in the most authentic human way possible to say something that's going to resonate with someone. It's going to make them feel seen and heard. We are in real danger right now in this profession of empathy becoming nothing more than a buzzword. We're in real danger in this profession of, again, over engineering our processes, putting ourselves in a position where then we do feel like we're on our heels and we have to compete with AI. But the truth is, that's just not how it has to be. It can be fun, right? And it can be sincere, and it must be human. Again, I am Nikki Ivey. I am Nikki Ivey on Instagram and Twitter. That is KNOWNIKKIIVEY. So it's as in get to know Nikki Ivey, not as in no, not as in rejection. And of course, you can follow me on LinkedIn. If you have questions specifically about the templates that I use in this sequence or the scripts, reach out to me, and I'd be happy to talk to you about them, because again, that's what I'm here for. I'm about the sales culture, and I'm so glad that you took the time to step by and take a look at the radically human outbound sequence. All right. Remember, stop chasing leads, start attracting leaders.